Coming up on the live stream, KK Macaroni explains that President Trump didn't know that he was retweeting a man shouting, "White power, white power, white power." On Sunday mornings, he's too busy concentrating on prayer, vigilance, reflection, and setting the crosses on fire. Put on your best swimsuit and jump on in to the live stream.
Kevin, tell us what you got. Okay, we don't have Kevin.
Hello and welcome to the live stream. All right, we're going to wait until somebody gets into the chat room so we know we're going live here. There's Dr. Howard. We are good to go. If you're watching this, the best place to watch it and chat is watching it on YouTube. If you're watching this delayed, don't, because do watch it, but you can't chat. But if you want to chat and it's in real time, which is about 7 p.m. Eastern time today, the 29th, we are going to look at a press conference with KK Macaroni. It's delayed, but we'll talk about it together and we'll get through it. Hey, Danielle. So if you want to go to the best chat room, go to youtube.com/KevinLeeFather. That's youtube.com/KevinLeeFather. You can find it there, and that's the best place because it has the quickest chat, as you can see from Casey, David, Rich, and Stephanie, all going to it on the YouTube. One of our executive producers, producer Joanna, is in the room. She is in YouTube as well. So Green Room being the one person on Twitter right now who wants to chat. If you just want to watch and you don't want to chat, you're more than welcome to. We take a look at the goings-ons and the Trumps and try and make some sense. You know what? We're never going to make sense out of it. Let's get going.
Statues. Americans oppose tearing down our statues. There's
Let's
a
go
Harvard
back to
Harris
where
poll
it actually
release.
starts.
He was briefed.
Which is 97 to 98% effective.
Here's Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci was talking earlier today that maybe we'll get a vaccine that's 70% effective, but as Dr. Fauci points out, if a whole bunch of people don't want to get the vaccine, pointless, because then we don't get the herd immunity and people keep dying of the virus and the country never recovers economically. Moving on.
Oh, that would be wonderful if we get there. I don't think we will. I would settle for a 70-75%
He sounds
effective
terrible,
vaccine,
Casey.
because that would bring you to that level
Hey,
of
Dr. Hillbilly.
herd immunity.
About the Russian bounties and whatnot. But can you say that he was briefed today?
Look, I'll say this, that the U.S. receives thousands of reports a day on intelligence, and they are subject to strict scrutiny. While the White House does not routinely comment on alleged intelligence or internal deliberations, the CIA director, NSA, National Security Advisor, and the Chief of Staff can all confirm that neither the president nor the vice president were briefed on the alleged Russian bounty intelligence.
But has he been?
Okay, here's the fact of the matter. The presidential daily briefing would have something like this in it. Here's our number one enemy on the planet paying to have soldiers killed in Afghanistan. Not just our soldiers, but other forces' soldiers as well, including the British, and that intelligence was shared with the British. Why would our intelligence services share it with the British but not tell our own president? Many people suspect, and I suspect as well, that it was in the presidential daily briefing, the PDB, which is what Trump gets, he's supposed to get every morning, but he never reads. And when you think about it, that's kind of a brilliant strategy. If you never read the information, you know, it's like your wife walking in saying, "Honey, I've been thinking and I've been really trying for a long time, and I feel like maybe it's time that we talk about la 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 la." You're married forever. Here we go.
Since all of these reports came out?
So let me back up and say this, that there is no consensus within the intelligence community on these allegations. And in effect, there are dissenting opinions from some in the intelligence community with regards to the veracity of what's being reported. And the veracity of the underlying allegations continue to be evaluated.
And one more question, if I could. Is he upset that this intelligence was reportedly shared with the British government, but not him?
I have no further comment on that other than to just point you back to the two assertions that I made previously.
Kristen. Thank you, Kaylee.
Assertions. She just called what she said assertions, which are not facts, but I don't know. Maybe I don't understand what the word assertions mean. That's my assertion.
Not be briefed on the Russia bounty story. Was he out of the loop by his own intelligence community?
No, as
Yes.
I noted, there was
Because
not
he
a
doesn't
consensus
read
among
the
the intelligence
information.
community. And in fact, there were dissenting opinions within the intelligence community, and it would not be elevated to the president until it was verified.
President Trump tweeted overnight, "Intel just spoke to me." What specifically does that mean? Who spoke to him? Did that person, in fact, give the president a full briefing in that conversation?
So I have no further details on the president's private correspondence.
Tell us who's
Follow-up question. Why are you here?
coming to the White House today and who's going to brief those lawmakers?
So what I can tell you about that is that last night the Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, called both Senator McConnell and Congressman Hoyer and said that he would be briefing 8 members from the committees of jurisdiction. So there was a bipartisan invitation extended, but no further details other than
Is
that.
that briefing going to happen today?
Yeah, the way the president usually works, you're right, Dr. Hillbilly, is that she'll say, no, President Trump always reads the presidential daily briefings. He is more than concise with his da-da-da-da, intention to detail, da-da-da. And in the very next interview, Trump will say, like in the helicopter moments, like, I never read anything. I gotta go.
Kaylee?
Yes, it was ongoing at the time when I came out here, or at least it had started, I think, 30 minutes prior to me coming out here.
But they're going to come to the White House. I just want to be clear about what's happening. Members of Congress have come or coming to the White House?
Yes. Caitlin.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One, isn't it concerning that there was even a hint of credibility to this report that the Russians were offering to pay Taliban-linked militants to kill American troops, and the president was not told about it? Has the National Security Advisor or anyone explained why they didn't think it rose to the level that the commander-in-chief should find out about it?
So intelligence is verified before it reaches the President of the United States, and in this case...
That is not true. That is not true at all. Intelligence usually goes up there if it's a high degree of confidence, which it, in all appearances, this is. That being said, it's an enemy of the United States putting a bounty on American soldiers' heads.
It was not verified. I would note this, though. When the president, there's no stronger advocate for our servicemen and women than President Trump. He never hesitates to act when there is a threat to our servicemen and women. For example, in Syria in 2018, when dozens of Russian mercenaries were killed in retaliatory defensive U.S.-led strikes. So when our adversaries have directly targeted U.S. or coalition partners, the president has not hesitated to act, but this was not briefed up to the president because it was not, in fact, verified.
So I understand it has to be.
Okay, what? Let's go back on that one.
The president, there's no stronger advocate for our servicemen and women than President Trump. He never hesitates to act when there is a threat to our servicemen and women. For example, in Syria in 2018, when dozens of Russian mercenaries were killed in retaliatory defensive U.S.-led strikes. So when our adversaries have directly targeted U.S. or coalition partners, the president has not hesitated to act, but this was not briefed up to the president.
Is she saying that President Trump ordered the strike that took out 72 Russian mercenaries? That was intentional as a retaliation on Russia? That requires further research. Guys, have you been hearing about this today? Because that is huge, if true. If that's what she's saying. That's what it sounds like she's saying to me. But then I hear things that nobody else hears. All weekend long, I was watching this video where I heard this old guy saying, "White power, white power," and apparently it's really difficult to hear. So I have this strange hearing. It's probably because of the headphones all the time. Let's go back. Let's listen to that one more time. Is anybody else hearing that too?
Though, when the president, there's no stronger advocate for our servicemen and women than President Trump. He never hesitates to act when there is a threat to our servicemen and women. For example, in Syria in 2018, when dozens of Russian mercenaries were killed in retaliatory defensive U.S.-led strikes. So when our
retaliatory defensive U.S.-led strikes. It's not what those strikes were. I'm going to have to look this up, guys. You guys watch. Enjoy. If anybody else knows, so there was a strike, and I want to say it was 72 Russian mercenaries taken out, but the strike was not against the Russian mercenaries. And I think that's what they're trying to say here.
Adversaries have directly targeted U.S. or coalition partners. The president has not hesitated to act, but this was not briefed up to the president because it was not, in fact, verified.
So I understand it has to be verified, but not everything in his daily briefings or in the presidential daily brief that's the written document is airtight. They let the president know about what they are hearing. That's why it's intelligence. So why would that not have been something that rose to that level if, we're sharing it with other countries?
The National Security Council and the intelligence community constantly evaluate intelligence reports, and they brief the president as necessary.
Okay, so my other question is, if this does be borne out to where the president believes that it is true, what is he going to do to hold Russia accountable? And is he still going to invite Vladimir Putin to the G7, G8, whatever he's thinking of having in the fall?
I won't speculate on whether this intelligence is verified or not verified, and I won't get ahead of the president on further actions, but I would just point out that no one
officials are not disputing that this is not true.
No one,
Ratcliffe is not disputing this.
there are dissenting opinions within the intelligence community, and I can confirm with you right now that there's no consensus within the intelligence community on these allegations. And further, I would just point out, I won't get ahead of the president on actions, but with regard to Russia, this president has been extremely strong on Russia, imposing sanctions on hundreds of Russian individuals, expelling dozens of diplomats, closing 2 Russian consulates, withdrawing from an INF treaty, and several other actions.
Disputing it in the intelligence community.
I have no further notifications for you other than to tell you there's no consensus and there are dissenting opinions from some within the intelligence community.
You don't think this report is true?
I'm telling you this, that there's no consensus in the intelligence community and that the dissenting opinions from some in the intelligence community exist.
And I'm just going to keep telling you over and over and over and over and over.
Darlene.
Yeah, so I was looking up they call it the Battle of Kasham, and yes, Russian mercenaries were killed. She makes it sound like this was the president retaliating against Russia. And she just listed off that we closed 2 consulates. Oh, they closed a consulate actually right over here in Seattle, like walking distance from me. It's just a house. But anyway, it was a consulate, and it was closed. And I think they closed the one in San Francisco as well, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, the Russian mercenaries, not Russian troops. And it was a battle between the United States forces and the Syrian forces loyal to Assad. They attacked the states retaliated. This is history is written by the victors, and a bunch of Russian mercenaries were killed. But did she not make it sound like this was a retaliatory defensive strike on Russia? That's what I heard. I know I'm nuts.
Thank you, Kelly. I wanted to go back to the tweet the president tweeted yesterday and then removed. This morning you said that he didn't hear the phrase white power in the portion of the video, and that when it was signaled to him that that was there, he took the tweet down. So does the president retweet other people's tweets and videos without knowing the full contents of what he's retweeting?
No, he did not hear that particular phrase when he tweeted out the video, and
the phrase is 5 to 8 seconds into the video, and the guy's shouting it. I'll play it for you in a second here.
Listen to the video before retweeting it?
He did, and he did not hear that particular phrase.
Again, the question is, did he listen to the video before retweeting it? Yes, he did, but he didn't hear that.
Without knowing the full contents of what he's retweeting?
No, he did not hear that particular phrase when he tweeted out the video. And
listen to the video before retweeting it?
He did, and he did not hear that particular phrase.
Also, given your opening, do you have any comment on Mississippi taking steps to remove the Confederate emblem from the state flag?
I would say that that's a decision for Mississippi to make, and it's commendable that they took this action in a lawful manner and took the appropriate steps rather than trying to tear down statues and monuments. Yeah.
Okay, I want to share with you guys, in case you haven't seen the white power thing, I have it all loaded up here, including some thoughts on that, including KK Macaroni here, and then the president explaining how very important it is to notice details, and also that he notices everything. But he listened to this and didn't hear white power being screamed thrice by 2 different people. One of them who says, "Did you hear that?"
No, he did not hear that particular phrase when he tweeted out the video. And
listen to the video before retweeting it?
He did, and he did not hear that particular phrase.
White power! White power! There you go, white power. You hear that? Did he say?
You hear that?
White power! Yes, there you go, white power!
I mean, he said that.
White power! Yes, there you go, white power!
Yeah, I notice everything.
He did not hear that particular phrase.
And shut the fact up. This is the new series of fact-checking that I'm doing.
You've got to be into the details, because if you're not, they'll come back to haunt you.
Right to the camera. I love that. You got to be into the details. This will not come back to haunt him. In fact, I suspect this is just another distraction, because now that John Bolton's book came out, and in it, John Bolton explains that the president tweets outrageous things all the time just to take the focus off what really matters. For example, when Ivanka turned out to be using personal emails for government business, which is exactly why he beat Hillary, because he nonstop criticism of her emails. He decided he would start tweeting nonsense, and that's what happens. Everybody pays attention. Oh, squirrel! Squirrel! White power, squirrel! And we get off the story, or at least they're trying to get us off the story, that Russia was paying... Russia basically did an act of war. Not even basically. It is an act of war. If Russia paid Afghanis to kill Americans, that is an overt act of war. You're hiring mercenaries to kill the enemy. That's war. So now that we know, now that figure it out, and if it's true, what are you going to do? Nobody seems to be asking that question, but they probably will.
Thanks, Kaylee. One follow-up on the Russia and then one on another issue. Does the president have a specific message for Moscow given these reports?
A specific message for Moscow? No, because he has not been briefed on the matter. As I noted, there's no consensus among the intelligence community, and there are, in fact...
Yeah, it's a good point here. David's 90% deaf. He is, and he heard it. Trump probably heard, like, white powder, white powder. The terrorists are attacking the golf cart people.
Dissenting opinions.
All right. And on a separate issue, Jacksonville, Florida today apparently is issuing a mask order. That, of course, is where at least part of the RNC will be held later this summer. Has the president...
Dr. Howard, let me know. The video audio isn't at the same pace. Kevin! Shouting my name for some reason, which I don't mind, but am I off sync? What's going on? If my audio is having an issue, let me know.
President's thinking about wearing a mask changed at all, given that order and given the increased corona...
Oh, Casey says his is okay. Dr. Howard, head over to Casey's place and watch it there. Okay, problem solved. You're welcome.
Coronavirus cases in Texas, Florida, Arizona, and elsewhere.
So I talked to the president before coming out here. It's his choice to wear a mask. It's the personal choice of any individual as to whether to wear a mask or not. He encourages people to make whatever decision is best for their safety, but he did say to me he has no problem with masks and to do whatever your local jurisdiction requests of you. Yes.
And he's made fun of Biden before for wearing masks, etc. But yeah, Jacksonville has said this morning that it is now going to be mandatory as of today at 5 p.m., which is already gone. Speaking of which, is 420. Blaze on, brother. I'm so not cool. So, yeah, Jacksonville has mandatory masks, which means that the convention, if held within that time frame, will have to have masks as well. So this will be interesting.
Thanks, Kaylee. There have been reports that some American service members actually were killed as a result of this Russian bounty. What information do you have on that?
Look, again, I'm pointing you back to the fact that there's no consensus within the intelligence community. And I would also note that for those of you that are always taking the New York Times at their word, they erroneously...
So no consensus within the intelligence community could be saying that someone in the Coast Guard Intelligence Division isn't quite sure about it. There's never 100% consensus because not everybody has seen the details. And that could be the way that they're getting around this, which is something they've done before.
Reported that the president was briefed on this. He was not briefed on this, and neither was the vice president. So before buying into full-fledged a narrative from the New York Times that falsely stated something about the president, that you would wait for the facts to come out. And note, once again, there's no consensus in the intel community, and in fact, there are dissenting opinions from some within it.
So the example she uses of why you shouldn't believe the New York Times story is this New York Times story. well, you can't believe this story because it's not true. I mean, for example, this story. Literally what she just said.
Within the intelligence community. And I would also note that for those of you that are always taking the New York Times at their word, they erroneously reported that the president was briefed on this. He was not briefed on this, and neither was the vice president. So before buying into full-fledged narrative from the New York Times that falsely stated something about the president, that you would wait for the facts to come out. And note, once again, there's no consensus in the intel community, and in fact, there are dissenting opinions from some within it.
But
Yeah. So you say that he wasn't briefed. Does that mean it wasn't in the PDB either?
He was not personally briefed on the matter. That is all I can share with you today.
He was not personally briefed on the matter. That doesn't mean it wasn't in the PDB. I could use a PBJ right now. If I was president, I'd have a PBJ every morning.
Is that both the CIA director, the national security advisor, and the chief of staff can all confirm neither the president or the vice president was briefed.
Okay, I have a coronavirus question as well, please. Secretary Azar said that the window is closing. This is, cases are on the rise. This is a very serious time. Obviously, the vice president held a briefing on Friday. What is the president's message to the American people, and why aren't we seeing him publicly talk to the public, encourage them to do things to stay safe?
I would note that there is a whole coronavirus task force briefing on Friday.
Yeah, she just noted that. The person asking the question literally just noted that.
Where all of these questions that the American public had were addressed.
5 questions were addressed, and then he left. And they weren't really addressed. He didn't really answer them. The question was asked. You guys saw it. Some of you saw it. If you didn't see it, the question was asked, hey, Mr. Vice President, isn't it hypocritical for you guys to be saying, hey, everybody keep a social distance, wear your mask, etc., when the president is holding rallies in Phoenix with 3,000 people jammed into a small church, none of them wearing masks? And the response was, well, Constitution, free speech, First Amendment, broad shoulders leadership, tremendous, remarkable progress. So that's not really addressing the question.
We're encouraged to see that fatalities are coming down, that this Sunday, I believe, we had our lowest fatality rate since, I believe it was March 22nd, so late March.
They must understand. The people in the administration must understand that death is a lagging indicator. That what do you guys, I know they have comprehension issues. I understand that, but how can you not, with all of those doctors around you, say, okay, first you get sick, then you go to the hospital, then you die. That's about 4 weeks for that to happen. How do they know?
What that signals to us is we're catching people in the communities. The people who are being infected tend to be those, as Vice President Pence has noted, half of those testing positive are under the age of 35. This means we're catching people in their communities. We're aware.
Literally everyone is in their communities. That's not what that indicates at all. But yes, 100% of the time, you catch people in their communities. Which, like, where else would you catch them? What?
Aware that there are embers that need to be put out, but these signs
embers
of decreasing
record numbers, embers,
fatality, increased and enhanced therapeutics that we've identified 4 of them: dexamethasone, convalescent plasma, and remdesivir, and one other that they are.
The one other is hydroxychloroquine.
Working. Remdesivir in particular reduces hospital time by 1/3. So these things make us uniquely equipped.
Remdesivir is not the miracle drug that everybody hopes it is. In the focus groups. That's how this administration runs their medical situations. They're medical. They have focus groups. They have focus groups. The death rate in hospitalized patients goes from 11% to 7% in 14 days. So within 2 weeks, 7% of the patients are still dead. which is still horrific. And they're still dead now if they've already died.
To handle the increase in cases that we've seen. Yes, Brian.
Haley, there's a national conversation going on right now about the proper place of symbols of the Confederacy, statues, memorials, names, and the president has repeatedly inserted himself into this debate. And I think a lot of people are trying to understand what his view of...
Just how many pages are in that binder? Like, we know what the talking points are going, we know the questions that are going to be asked in the press briefing. 10, 12, 14? And if they're not asked, if it's something's not in those pages, I'm not ready to, I'll get back to you on that. That's the press secretary, Press Secretary Sanders was famous for that. I'll get back to that. I'll make sure we get back to you. I'll make sure, we'll get back, and never got back. Actually, that's not true. Every once in a while she would, according to press correspondence. But look at how many pages she has there. Why so many? She's constantly searching, and I'm wondering, is she even reading it? I think Jay Arnold on Twitter was saying earlier, like, there's no reading going on. She's just kind of shuffling because she's just thinking, like, okay, how do I get rid of this one and go on to the next one?
Memorializing the Confederacy is in the proper place of the Confederate flag. So a couple questions. One, does President Trump believe that it was a good thing that the South lost the Civil War? And then two, is he interested in following NASCAR's example and banning the Confederate flag at his own events?
Well, your first question is absolutely absurd. He's proud of...
Look at this face.
That it was a good thing that the...
So we'll go back
into this debate.
Watch her
I think
face.
A lot of people are trying to understand what his view of memorializing the Confederacy is in the proper place of the Confederate flag. So a couple questions. One, does President Trump believe that it was a good thing that the South lost the Civil War?
Like, what? Who asked that? That's a valid question, because, you know, he does celebrate the Confederacy. He's always talking about our heritage. You know, the kid from New York.
And then two, is he interested in following NASCAR's example and banning the Confederate flag at his own events?
Well, your first question is absolutely absurd. He's proud of the United States of America. Second, with regard to our
follow up then, why does he support the statues of people who killed soldiers from the United States of America? Maybe the South had a bounty on those soldiers, in which case it's understandable.
Statues. Americans oppose tearing down our statues. There's a Harvard-Harris poll released just last week that shows 60% of respondents said the statues should remain, and 71% said local governments should block groups from physically destroying the statues. So he stands on the side of preserving our history.
The question was actually about the Confederate flag at his rallies. Is he interested in banning the Confederate flag at his rallies?
That would be a question for his campaign, but look, this president's focused on taking action, on fixing problems. It's why he had his executive order just a few...
Just FYI, it's not a question for the campaign. She can ask the president that question, and if the president has discussed it, she can answer that question, and she's the former campaign manager. That's what she was doing the day before she took this job.
Weeks ago, to keep our streets safe and secure. That's where his focus lies, and I think that those who are...
David, I'm going to fact check you. That's David from Snopes or Snoops, by the way. The president this is what David's saying. The president was not personally briefed on the Civil War. That is not true. Andrew Jackson briefed him on the Civil War, and he had a discussion with it, and is not sure whether Franklin Douglas was in the room or not. But Biden.
Tearing down statues, they do appear to have no ideology when they're...
No, that's a reference to, at one point, Trump had said that Andrew Jackson had predicted the Civil War and saw the things that Andrew Jackson was like 1928 when he was president. I don't quote me on the date. 1828. And of course the Civil War didn't come around till 1917 with the Great Flu.
Tearing down statues and defacing statues of Matthias Baldwin, an abolitionist.
Question of our closest allies not paying a larger share of NATO and other defense dues,
not really sure
has preoccupied the president.
What happened there? The Yahoo TV just went nuts. So What were we watching? Hold on. I think it was CNN Newsroom. Give me a second. You'll get the insight into Yahoo TV, which is generally pretty good. In fact, why don't we just bypass all of that, and we're going to go to C-SPAN, because that's going to be quicker to find it. C-SPAN. Okay, yeah, C-SPAN. We're going to have to sit through a C-SPAN commercial. Oh, there she is all there. We'll go to the full event. And it's going to be quieter, so you're going to have to adjust your volume. Sorry, guys. Okay.
Opinions from some in the intelligence. He was not personally briefed. People who are being infected.
Memorials, names.
Of the United States stands on the side of preserving our. They do appear to have no idea. Will be punished to the fullest extent to keep our street.
Okay, about here. Everybody with me? Let's make sure the volume is pumped up all the way for C-SPAN. Yeah, so let me pump up the volume here for you as well. All right, so I may have compensated enough. Be prepared to adjust the volume on your own. If I'm too loud, let me know.
It's safe and secure. That's where his focus lies, and I think that.
David, you're making a joke that there's no consensus that the Union actually won the Civil War, but I've spent some time in the South. You're absolutely right.
Those who are tearing down statues, they do appear to have no ideology when they're tearing down statues and defacing statues of Matthias Baldwin, an abolitionist, Hans Christian Hegg, who died fighting for the Union Army during the Civil War. A memorial for African American soldiers who fought in the Civil War was damaged in Boston, and a monument to fallen police officers was vandalized in Sacramento. This is unacceptable. It's why the president took strong action. It's why, as an executive order, saying those tearing down statues will be punished to the fullest extent of the law. It's why 4 people will charge. He will not stand for lawlessness and chaos. He stands with the 71% of Americans who say there is no place for tearing down statues, as these anarchists are doing across.
So he's going to punish people using the law. He wrote an executive order basically saying, yeah, the law, because the law is already in place. There's already a penalty of up to 10 years for vandalizing statues, etc., on government land, federal government land. So his executive order was basically saying, yeah. Who wants a Sharpie? Not the one I used.
The nation. Christian.
It's okay to display the Confederate flag at his events.
Christian.
Yeah, thanks, Kaylee. I got a couple.
That's what I thought too,
First
Randall.
off, the president's been talking about this big infrastructure push. I'm curious if we're ever going to get a look at.
Is it Infrastructure Week again? I'm going back to bed.
The proposal that DOT has been working on. And then secondly, curious if you could give us a little info on how the Phase 4 negotiations are going. Do you get a sense that Congress is open to the back-to-work bonus that the president said he's in favor of?
I don't have any updates for you on Phase 4 or infrastructure, but the president has mentioned for the last 3 years he's very keen on Democrats coming to the table and working with us on infrastructure. He's keen on, in a Phase 4, seeing a payroll tax holiday, which helps low-wage workers and those who need it most. These are real, effective measures that could help the American people, but the onus is really on Democrats to come to the negotiating table.
Well, is there any indication that this is going to be different than infrastructure in February? I mean, that was roundly denounced by all the Democrats.
Yeah, I won't get ahead of the president or those negotiations. Stephen.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. First, about the statues. I covered pretty closely the Trump inauguration rioting trials, and those all ended in essentially jury nullification, and no one was convicted. And I was wondering if President Trump is concerned about the possibility that the same will happen with the people who were charged before for trying to topple the Jackson statue, particularly given his personal role helping apprehend suspects.
Look, that'll be a decision for the courts to make and for juries to make, but the president is very keen on seeing these actions brought to justice, because tearing down American monuments and defacing federal property and defacing the Lincoln Memorial are not things the American public want to see, as noted with that 71% poll.
Got it. And my second question.
I'm going to just interject something here. One of the questions was about a stimulus for the people. So June 19th, which is now 10 days ago, in an interview with the Sinclair Network, I believe, Trump said that he was committed to a second direct stimulus check to the American people within the next couple of weeks. We're now 10 days into it, and there hasn't been word one from the White House. It's just something, because someone was asking him a question. Would you do this? The American people would like it. Well, of course, I'll do whatever you want. You want a unicorn sundae with gold sprinkle? I'll make it within a very short period of time. With the next couple of... You'll never pin them down on an exact time. It's like the great, great surprise on healthcare within the next couple of weeks that he made in April of 17.
Over the weekend, President Trump retweeted a contrast of his presidency and President Obama's, and there was a chart of the different things that President Obama did and President Trump did, and one of the differences was President Obama approving the extrajudicial killings of Americans overseas. There was a little bit of confusion earlier in President Trump's presidency about his position on that. Are you able to clarify whether he opposes that?
Look, I would just say this. The president will always point to the difference between his record and that of President Obama, which is what he was getting at with his tweet. You had on one hand in the Obama-Biden presidency the weakest economic recovery since World War II. With President Trump, we got to the hottest economy in modern history. With President Trump, you saw...
That is... it was a gradual recovery in a very different economy since World War II. That's a cherry pick stat. And then saying that the best economy in history, again, not even true. The primary measure of an economy is the growth of the GDP. Under Trump last year, it was 2.3. China was at 6.1, which is low for China. But Trump is killing the GDP. Bragged about getting it to 6 or even higher. Didn't want to say it because if he's wrong, the media would be all over him. That's what he said. I've got that clip somewhere. I'm not even going to play it. Moving on.
ISIS defeated with Vice President Biden and President Obama. The so-called JV team of ISIS became the varsity team and overran 2 separate countries. So the president will always draw contrast with President Obama, and those are just 2 of the many, and he was drawing a contrast in that tweet.
Thanks, Kayla. I have 2 questions on COVID-19. First off, remdesivir. We found out today the pricing of it going forward for roughly a 5-day trial. $2,300 for government-backed programs, $3,100 in the commercial marketplace. Does the White House, does President Trump approve of that pricing, of that price point, considering there's been some criticism as to whether or not that's too high?
So, Blake, that's a really good...
I don't know, Janet. Did she say Biden? Let's go back.
White House.
2 of Obama between his record and that of President Obama, which is what he was getting at with his tweet. You had on one hand in the Obama-Biden presidency the weakest economic recovery since World War II. With President Trump, we got to the hottest economy in modern history. With President Trump...
Listen to what they say. They always say it's the hottest economy, which means nothing. That's not a measurement. There's no heat from the economy.
You saw ISIS defeated with Vice President Biden and President Obama. The so-called JV team of ISIS became the varsity team and overran 2 separate countries. So the president will always draw contrast with President Obama, and those are just 2 of the many, and he was drawing a contrast in that tweet.
Thanks, Kayla. I have 2 questions on COVID-19. First off, remdesivir.
Did I miss it again?
Always draw contrast. President Biden and President
Obama.
The so-called JV team of ISIS became the varsity team and overran 2 separate countries. So the president will always draw contrast with President Obama, and those are just 2 of the many, and he was drawing.
That should really, if Biden's smart, he should grab that and start using it. President O'Biden.
Contrast in that tweet.
Thanks, Kayla. I have 2 questions on COVID-19. First off, remdesivir. We found out today the pricing of it going forward for roughly a 5-day trial. $2,300 for government-backed programs, $3,100 in the commercial marketplace. Does the White House, does President Trump approve of that pricing, of that price point, considering there's been some criticism as to whether or not that's too high?
So, Blake, that's a really good, important and substantive question that I think deserves a good answer to. And first, the
RKR, what do you mean I didn't vote for Hillary, RKR, so why would I have to get over it? I'm dealing with the here and the now. So if you could stay in the here and the now, I know. Hillary is like 3 years ago. It's time to move on. How's your Confederate flag looking?
The wholesale acquisition costs, or the federal supply schedule, is about $3,200 for a course of remdesivir. But remdesivir is an inpatient drug done by infusion, and because it is an inpatient drug, the patient would be very unlikely to see the cost of the drug and to pay the cost of the drug, because the way that hospitals get reimbursed for inpatient drugs is that they are paid flat fees for admission. And as Secretary Azar explained to me, this means, in layman layman terms that hospitals have to eat the cost of treatment used. But if they buy remdesivir for, let's say, $3,200, which is the wholesale acquisition cost, and that remdesivir drug saves that patient time in the hospital, they only spend a third of the time in the hospital as a patient without remdesivir.
No, that's not what the study said happens. Why? Why is she in charge of anything that involves math? She probably thinks there's like 80,000 police officers in the United States.
That would mean that the hospitals are actually profiting because they're getting the patient out early. So that's...
I haven't moved on, and yes, I kneel to aim, is the response from RKR. You're going to have to use English. This is America.
It basically all comes down to saying that the patient will not see that cost.
With the price point.
Right.
And then secondly, just picking up what Jeff had asked about masks. You said the president had no problem with masks and that individuals should do whatever their local jurisdiction requests. However, the HHS Secretary Alex Azar said this weekend, quote, "We've got to practice social distancing. We've got to use face coverings when we can't practice social distancing." So if individuals are going into an area and social distancing cannot be practiced, should they listen to the local jurisdiction in which face masks might not necessarily be mandated, or should they listen to the HHS secretary who says wear a face mask?
So the CDC guidelines are they are recommended but not required, and the president would encourage everyone to follow the orders of their local jurisdiction and CDC guidelines.
Thank you. So one question follow-up and then a separate issue. I just want to be clear, there are congressional leaders who are being briefed on the Russia situation, but the president has still not been briefed on the situation?
Look, this has been asked and answered. The president is briefed on verified intelligence.
And how does he know if...
Jana, if they were intelligent, they wouldn't be megas. I mean, that's kind of how it works. It's like, how come dogs are always pooping in the yard?
He hasn't been briefed. How is he certain that Russia didn't put out these bounties?
The president is briefed on verified intelligence, and again, I would just point you back to the absolutely irresponsible.
The president is briefed on verified and unverified intelligence.
Responsible decision of the New York Times to falsely report that he was briefed on something that he in fact was not briefed on, and I really think that it's time for the New York Times to step back.
Is she wrapping up now? Has she asked OAN a question? Are they there?
And ask themselves why they've been wrong so often. The New York,
including the example of this thing plus this thing, and also this same example.
Times falsely claimed Paul Manafort asked for polling data to be passed along to Oleg Deripaska before having to issue a correction. In June of 2017, the New York Times falsely wrote all 17 intel agencies had agreed on Russian interference before having to issue a correction that it was only 4 agencies. In 2017...
Yeah, because, like I was explaining earlier, there's a Coast Guard intelligence agency, so all 4 pertinent agencies. So they made a mistake on the number, but the fact of it was all 4 agencies that would have a consensus opinion on that did have a consensus opinion. So it was, yeah, okay, and that's again what I was talking about, is you can say there's no consensus because the Coast Guard didn't weigh in on that particular thing. But what the New York Times was talking about, Russian interference in the election, was absolutely 100% on. But let's worry about the numbers.
February of that year, New York Times published a story claiming Trump campaign aides had repeated contacts with Russian intelligence, which even James Comey has said was almost entirely wrong, New York Times. New York story claiming Trump campaign aides had repeated contacts with Russian intelligence, which even James Comey has said was almost entirely wrong, New York Times. New York Times published a column in March of 2019 by a former Times executive editor that asserted the Trump campaign in Russia had an overarching deal that the quid of help in the campaign against Hillary for the quo of a new pro-Russian foreign policy. That's what we call the Russia hoax, which was investigated for 3 years with taxpayer dollars before ultimately getting an exoneration in the Mueller report.
And if you look in the Mueller report, there is no exoneration. And on page 10 of the Mueller report, Mueller shows that not only did several Trump administration officials and campaign officials plead the fifth and refuse to testify, but many of them deleted emails and other documents. And it was common practice for them to use encryption. So There was a lot of evidence that Mueller just never got to. Should have kept going, but he wrapped it up because he figured, I'm never going to get to the bottom of this. So no, nobody was exonerated, as Mueller pointed out and suggested, hey, you guys might want to take impeachment. And what did the Democrats do? Nothing. Nothing. Not that it would have made any good, because, I mean, we saw what happened when they impeached him for the Ukraine deal.
It's inexcusable, the failed Russia reporting of the New York Times, and I think it's time that the New York Times and also the Washington Post hand back their Pulitzers.
Yeah, this was the wrap-up. She didn't even have to go to OAN, but she has whatever. She knew at some point, because this session was going to be about the New York Times because of the Afghanistan report. She was ready with that, and then she just closes the binder. Look at that face. Look at that face. It's a smug little Yeah, there we go. That's she's making $185,000 of our money. Okay, let's check the numbers. It's 184, I think, but probably a raise this year. We only have last year's figures, but yeah, she's making that much of our money for this.
Why hasn't the president condemned white power, Kayleigh? Why hasn't he condemned that tweet?
Yeah, why hasn't he condemned white power? Oh, record numbers all over the place, folks. California, another record day today. I haven't seen the numbers from Texas or Florida yet, but California is rolling back. LA just closed the bars. So be careful out there. It's all over the place. Here in Seattle, we are paused. Florida closed the bars. Texas closed the bars. I think Florida, actually, they haven't closed the bars. The last time I checked, they hadn't closed the bars yet, but they said no more serving alcohol in the bars. At that point, it just becomes a library without books. But that's what they got going on there. She did sell her soul. She didn't get much for it, but you saw part of her soul escaping the other day with the teardrop. Let's see. I can play that so you guys know what I'm referring to there. Let's see. I will get that for you. Computer's taking a while to get to it. Chris, why would Trump condemn white power when that's his brand? That is true. He wouldn't condemn white power. He'd just say that he didn't know him. Yes, there's pictures of him in white power, but he takes thousands of pictures. Let's see. KK and... Yeah, look at this.
Directly about that quote from Dr. Fauci. But what I would say is the administration did consistently emphasize that N95 respirators should not be used because we needed to save those for medical personnel. So I believe that's what Dr. Fauci was.
So she's already sold that soul, but this is Satan's calling that part of the black soul back. I believe that's what happens there. I don't wear a lot of makeup, so I can't be sure. He never met white power. No, never did. That is absolutely true, David. Let's see. Dr. Howard says everything was closed for 24 hours. Then DeSantis reopened them and removed the mask order. Really? And that's why Jacksonville had to put it back on. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't even know that, Doctor, but I'm going to take your word for it. I can't fact check that right now. Gyms and dine-in soon need to close. Yeah, Rich, you're in LA County, right? Where are you in LA, by the way? Don't give me your address specifically. A couple of people have doxed themselves here on the broadcast, and you guys do not want to deal with the nonsense that I deal with, like the RTR or whatever. There's a good chance that right now he's trying to hack my Twitter. Someone tried to hack my Hotmail account. They went to a website that's listed on my Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not going to tell you how they found it, but way back, like, who uses Hotmail anymore? Microsoft employees and foreigners. That's it. Let's see. Newsom closed our county back down. Thank goodness. Okay, so you're in Sacramento, right, Steph? Dr. Howard, you're in Florida. Yeah, I don't know. That's got to be mascara, right? That's got to be mascara melting and then dripping down. And I'm melting apparently too. I don't know why that happens sometimes. Has to do with the lighting changing. Doesn't that mean she killed somebody? Yes, if it stays still, David, that is a prison tat. And that means that you killed somebody. But yeah, someone did try and hack my Hotmail. Everything that I have, in case you're watching and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get to this guy. First off, I'm a public figure. A very, very minor public figure. I'm not hard to find. But all of my passwords are double protected. So if you get my phone, you might have a shot. but then you also have to figure out what the password is. But anyway, so I try not to dox people on here. So Danielle, you're in Sacramento. Can I have your specific address, zip code, and social security? No reason whatsoever. So if you'd send that through, Danielle. I just need that because you're a moderator, and moderators have to provide the last four. So I don't know. Is it that? I thought women would just know what that was. I thought it was mascara. I just assumed. Do we not know what that is? Here.
Directly about that quote from Dr. Fauci. But what I would say is the administration did consistently emphasize that N95 respirators.
Okay, watch that. Is that not just mascara coming down from the corner of her eye? There's lights there. She's probably in one of the booths. She's probably in the Fox booth, which is the last booth. The White House is in the background. I think that makes sense. But it's eyeliner. Okay, yeah, that's true. Eyeliner and mascara, two different things. Mascara. Okay, you guys don't even know. Casey, I don't even know if you're male or female, and you might be male and mascara. That's fine too. That's all good. Yeah, I don't know. We've kind of gone off on a tangent here, which is fine, kids. So I have an interview that FactBase put together. By the way, love FactBase. If you want to donate to somebody, donate to me. PayPal.me/KevinLeeDad with a one-time payment, and I'd appreciate that. Thank you very much. Also, welcome. I had a couple of new patrons the last couple of days. Welcome to the broadcast. I will get you into the broadcast and the credits. If you'd like to support me and be a patron, this kind of stuff, then please go to kevinleefather.com. And as you saw earlier, I'm starting up another sort of fact-checking program called Shut the Fact Up. I've done a couple of them, but I've got to get up with a blah, 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 do all the work on it. But I want to be able to spit those things out when Trump tweets in the morning. Including when something like Karen happens, because all these people saying, yeah, you have to let me in the store with the mask on. You do not have to let someone into the store with no mask on. That's not the way the ADA works at all. And all of that freedom to breathe agency cards, you've all seen them now. They're fake. There's no freedom to breathe agency in the United States. Lightning said something. It's a motor oil. Yeah, it does look like motor oil. Or just a rando bird. A bird that bird should eat more bran, because that is not the color that it's supposed to be. Yeah, Janet, it probably is a prison tat that's moving. Well, you can't get close to the tattoo artist right now, so that's just probably a temporary tattoo, and its time just ran out. Okay, guys, I have an interview with President Trump that FactBase put together, spliced it together. It's with Brian Kilmeade from Fox and/or Friends. So, do you guys want to see that? I haven't previewed it, and I can come back with a broadcast later today, or maybe tomorrow if tomorrow's a slow day. But let me know if you guys are interested in watching that. It is. Let's see how long it is. It is about 20 minutes long, so it would be another full live stream episode. And much of it is video, some of it is just audio, but I can show you guys what I'm doing over here. Hold on. I'll bring this over here. So, yeah, so this is the interview right here. Most of it is actual visual there, and it looks like it's Kilmeade at the White House. Let's do a preview.
All about. And they would knock down Lincoln. There's a group that wants to take down Lincoln. They haven't figured out exactly why yet.
How did I miss this? That's Fox putting in the dramatic music in the background there, by the way.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. I've stopped them twice now from going over to the Jefferson Memorial. If I weren't president, they would have knocked down. If a guy like Biden was president, they will knock down the Jefferson Memorial.
I see what happened here. Okay, so this is for Brian Kilmeade's radio show. Parts of that were taken out and shown on Fox television, probably during the Fox and/or Friends or some other time, who knows. And so that was their promo stuff. So some of it's audio only, some of it actually has the video to it. But good work by FactBase putting it all together. Oh, and here's John Oliver. We should just watch this because I haven't watched this one yet. No, we won't watch that right now. So, yes, interested? Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, let's watch it. Okay. I'm going to here. You guys watch the interview for a second. Actually, you guys watch a preview of John Oliver. This is the new one. You guys watch this for like a minute. I'm going to take a look and see what's going on with. It's coming up on 5 o'clock. No, I can't. I got to go get Kevin Lee daughter, guys. I'm sorry. So let's put this on hold. Let's watch this tomorrow, probably. I don't know anything about the president's schedule for tomorrow yet because, as usual, they're not releasing any detail. Like, no one knows what the hell is going on. They know if the president's having a meeting with a prime minister or something tomorrow, they know the White House just doesn't bother putting up the schedule anymore. But you know what we're going to do? Because every once in a while, the public pool will give us a proclamation to certain actions 2 hours ago. Wait, was there... says proclamation to take certain actions under the United States of Mexico. Wait, there might be some Trump from today. Give me a second here, guys. Let's go to the C-SPANs. By the way, Kevin Lee daughter is downtown Seattle right now having a social distance visit with a friend. And as many of you know, she's vegan and... she's also gluten-free, so there's only certain restaurants that can serve her. All of the restaurants downtown are all closed and boarded up because of the protests. We're still having nightly protests here in Seattle. In fact, they shut down they got on the freeway, which, okay, have your protests. Great, more power to you. Hopefully things change. That's how it's done. Freedom to assemble, all of that. If only the forefathers had said, but not on the freeway. They could have said byway. It could have... Anyway, so yeah, the freeway shut down, so we had to pull over to the side and back up a ramp and go down the other, which took probably longer than, like, the protests were probably over by the time we got all the way back up the ramp. Yeah, everybody loves John Oliver. Like, share, retweet. Yeah, I don't think... do another show tonight? It might be late, guys. Maybe I'll do it tonight. Maybe I won't. I don't see anything from Trump today, but they said there was a proclamation. Again, what the pool gets, it could have been closed press. Oh, wait, here's the tip. Okay, so this proclamation just came out. Sometimes they just put out proclamations like the president salutes National HIV Day or whatever, and he doesn't do a conference on it. So I don't think we missed this one. If you guys saw any Trump action today, first off, I'm sorry. No one wants to see Trump action. But if you guys saw Trump doing something today and I missed it, let me know. Shoot me a DM on Twitter or in the chat room for the next couple. Bye, Rich. Barbara will be fast asleep in Belgium. Travel ID, photo. Yeah, I don't see anything else from Trump today. And tomorrow, the schedule is not up yet, so we don't know. So either later tonight or tomorrow, I will do the Trump thing. Before we go, oh, Rich, are you still here? Because we can take care of Billy Joel in 5 seconds here. Okay, we're doing the Billy Joel Madness. For those of you who don't know, we're voting on Billy Joel songs to figure out what the best Billy Joel song is. And right now we've got a battle between Vienna and Say Goodbye to Hollywood. We're going to say goodbye to one of those songs that last time I looked it was tied. So, yeah, it's West Coast. Rich, are you still here? But Rich is the sponsor of it, and I know he's into it, so I don't want to do it unless Rich is in the room. So it looks like Rich is not in the room, so we'll do that another time, guys. I'm going to go pick up Kevin Lee daughter. You guys take care of yourselves. Hi, Bev. Thank you, Bev. You're welcome. So you might see me later. I'll get a hold of Rich maybe and ask him what time works for the Billy Joel update. We'll do a Billy Joel update, and then maybe we'll do the Trump thing. I'm thinking we'll do it tomorrow because my voice is already kind of worn out from the day. Here are your closing credits. You guys be safe, and we will see you another time. Wait, David, you voted for Vienna illegally? I'll touch base with you on that. Did you create multiple tweets? You have multiple tweets. That's true. David has a cadre of employees that he could have just told to vote one way or the other. In which case, Kevin Lee daughter would be thrilled with you, David, if you did that, because she's a huge Vienna fan, because it is in the show The Politician, which is on Netflix, which is a pretty good show. I watched the first season. I haven't watched the second season yet, so check it out. Bye, guys. Joe G, we'll see you later. Freedom! I'm out of here, Green Room. Executive producer, Green Room. So would at random watch the Patriot. At random also wants Vienna to win. So I don't know. It's over unless it was tied again, but we'll find out later. So when you see the Billy Joel update happening, tune in. And I'm trying to do things on the top of the hour, guys. Some of you have said it's better when things are delayed, and that way we can pause and talk about them, which is great. I tend to agree with that, unless it's some sort of breaking news that needs to be covered immediately. Ciao, producer Joanna. Thank you for your time. Go bake some cookies. And we will see you guys after the closing credits. And then the amount of time that it takes me to come back on the air. I should be in promo.
Kevin, tell us what you got. Okay, we don't have Kevin.